Good morning, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Have you ever felt like you're running on empty? You know, there was a song written years ago by Jackson Browne titled that, Running on Empty. And yesterday I did a video about how to be okay when life is not okay. And I want to continue building upon that. I was not able to fully develop my thoughts. The video got very long. I'm going to try to keep the videos always short. So it may take a video or two or three to get a concept across, especially when I am just learning myself. Many of these things I don't yet have the vocabulary to be concise with my speech, so hopefully I don't ramble too much. But anyway, have you ever felt like you're running on empty? And this is my attempt to explain why yesterday's talk was important. You know, again, to the young men who grew up in broken homes, fatherless homes, homes of alcoholism or neglect, you know, this one's for you. I personally grew up in a home where my parents they loved us, but they were somewhat disconnected. They were older parents, and Dad loved alcohol and very much stayed in his own space. And I remember young wanting to connect emotionally. I was maybe a more sensitive child. Maybe I personally needed more connection or emotional process, verbal processing. Maybe I needed more connection than maybe some men do, but either way, it was not really there. Mom and Dad were there. Thank God they fed us. They did, they took care of us. We survived. But as far as trying to connect on an emotional level and, do heart to heart and learn how to understand my emotions and manage those and process my emotions in a healthy way and be able to regulate my emotions, and there was really none of that. It was very very distant, emotionally distant home. It's like, you're fed, you're alive, what more do you want? So anyway, the reason all this is so new to me and important to me, and I'm wanting to share it with you, is if you happen to be a young man or an older man who grew up in a home where you received complex trauma. And see, complex trauma is, when you hear trauma, you think, war, bomb going off, what happened to you, bad stuff happening to you. But complex trauma is the other side of that coin. Complex trauma is the neglect of the needs you had that were not met. You just simply didn't have your needs met, and you didn't get the tools you needed to grow into a full, healthy adult and do life on life's terms and be okay. So that's what I mean by complex trauma. And the reason I'm doing all this and saying all this is because I'm 40 years old, and oh man, starting 5-6 years ago in college, I began, having counseling classes, to teach me as a pastor how to counsel people. And I remember then when they were starting to talk about, I had no idea what trauma was, that I had trauma. I had no idea. I was totally uninformed. I remember going through the books and the course, and I was like, some of those symptoms there do I have that? And, I've been on like a 5-6 year, maybe longer than that, journey of starting to peel back the layers of the onion, realizing, that I have some issues that I didn't realize that I had. And they come from complex trauma, neglect trauma, not having the things you needed in your early or childhood or early adult life, And so there you go. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I'm here to help you. I'm trying my best to bring you some straight help. I know I wanted and needed help for years and years, and I know nobody came to me on this level, but I'm trying to bring it to you. I'm trying to open your eyes, okay? So stay with me. I'm going to keep this video short today. It is possible that you, my friend, have complex trauma as I do, because of the things you didn't get in your childhood and you needed and whatever, your early adult life, okay? And here's the thing, that song Running on Empty that I started out with, I'm going to tell you how I felt my whole life. When I was little and young, like I was a kid, I didn't realize there was, complex trauma being done to me, and that I was being neglected and emotionally. I didn't understand. I was a kid. I didn't know. I was just surviving. And when you're in a home where one parent's an alcoholic, and like, they could just haul off and whip you anytime for any reason. Emotions are not stable. You learn as a kid to walk on eggshells and, walk very lightly. And maybe your parents are not emotionally supportive, and so, especially if they're drinking and things. And as a kid, you learn these maladaptive behaviors. You learn survival mode. You learn, okay, dad likes this, he doesn't like that. And you learn that there are parts of you that are not even celebrated, but rather punished. Some things I do, I get rewarded for. Some things I don't do, I get punished for. And you learn as a kid to kind of do what Tim Fletcher calls soul murder. And you learn to shut off parts of your emotions and your personality that don't seem beneficial to your situation. They're not rewarded or praised by your parents. So you adapt. You become like a chameleon. You adapt to become what you need to be to survive your circumstances. And you have a limbic brain and I can't think of the cortex. You have an upper brain and a lower brain. I'm gonna call it that because I can't remember all the words. But your upper brain is active, and that's where you learn things, and it's hard to learn things. But once you learn something, your brain downloads it from the upper front thinking part. I think that's the cortex, down to the limbic brain. They call it the animal brain. It's the subconscious memory part of your brain. So like riding a bicycle, you go riding a bike, and at first when you start riding a bicycle, it's hard, but after 20 or 100 times of doing it, you finally you just get on the bike and ride it. And what happened was you had to learn it slowly in the front part of your brain, your thinking part, active part, and then your brain, when you got it and it realized it had the program, it downloaded that into the limbic part, and then you just kind of run on autopilot, and you get on the bike and you just ride it forever. I haven't rode a bike in years, and I'm sure I could get on one and ride it. Okay, that's what happens when you're a kid and you grow up in these turbulent homes, emotionally distant homes. You go into survival mode, you do soul murder and delete the parts of your personality and your dreams and your soul and your emotions, whatever's not necessary for sheer survival in a chaotic home. You delete all that, shut that down, black that out, turn the lights out, and you just become this shell of a survivor, a chameleon, what you have to make it through. And the problem with doing that is, it gets you through and you do survive, but you practice that for a period of time as a child, and that becomes who you are. It downloads into that lower subconscious part of the brain, and you function out of that now. And that is now all you know of as your personality. When in reality, what you've done is you have cut off your emotions, deleted lots of them, or murdered them, Tim Fletcher says. And you're not really yourself. You're a hollow shell of yourself. The chameleon that had to become to survive your situation. So now you're an adult, and back to the song Running on Empty. Now you're an adult man. And as a kid, you probably have an addiction. If you have complex trauma like I have, I used to smoke cigarettes. My dad smoked. I picked up cigarettes. I remember I was like 10 or 12 years old, and I would get my dad's cigarettes and sneak off and smoke them. I think now looking back, I was forming that addiction of smoking because I was trying to bring something into my life I could control because everything else felt uncontrollable and out of control. And I was trying to comfort myself where I was wanting to be comforted and met on a close personal soul level of engagement with my parents, but it wasn't really there, especially with maybe my dad. And so I formed an addiction. I got a hold of a cigarette, and I saw Dad doing it. I was going to do it, and that became my crutch. I would get 10, 12 years old. I'd sneak off with a cigarette, pack of cigarettes, and I'd smoke when I could, and it made me feel comforted that at least this thing was there for me. So now here you are. You're 40 years old, 30 years old, wherever you are in life. 20 years old. I remember, for me, in my early adult life, when I got, grown and off to work, Dad was already passed away, and I'm smoking cigarettes like crazy, coffee and cigarettes, and thank God I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but anyway, I was running on empty. I was living in the panic. That song, I'm trying to be brief here, but if you go listen to that song by Jackson Browne, Running on Empty, you hear the lyrics, and he's describing a young man, living in that hollow shell of himself, living out the ramifications of complex trauma and not realizing why he's feeling like he feels. Now, I don't know that that's the exact what Jackson Browne meant by that song, but that's if it's not, it works, because that's how I felt, man. I was young, I was poor, I was running on empty, man. I never had enough money, I never had enough time, I never had peace or comfort, or couldn't relax. I was uncomfortable in my own skin. And I was just always chasing that dollar and chasing the next thing and chasing, trying to get right, trying to get comfortable, trying to get my life together and get myself together. And all of this to say, I'm going to wrap this up in a minute here, but I'm trying to help you become a healthy, whole person. And it's possible that you're like me. I didn't realize at the time. Now I know, looking back, I'm learning. I wanted my life to be a good life. I wanted to be a good man with a good life and have my act together. And there were two components that were going on that I didn't understand any of this, but I'm trying to help you now. There's the physical, real world part of what you have to do to have your life be okay. And then there's the inner soul, spiritual level of what you have to do to have your life be okay. So far, I'm talking about the inner part. You're in your head and heart and your soul. And we'll get to the physical part of making your life okay, because that's there too. We ain't got there yet. We're still on step one, the physical, spiritual. And I started that yesterday with the whole, being okay when life's not okay. And this is what I'm getting at here. I ran for years on empty. Running scared, running blind, running like crazy, working till 2 a.m, on a Sunday night in the rain, in a rough part of town by the headlights of my truck to finish up a job because my power bill was due the next morning. Running scared, running blind, and see, here it was. And I can only tell you this now, looking back, having learned about trauma. I was trying to get my life and myself okay and healthy and get my life right, get myself right. I was trying my best. And what had happened to me was I had done soul murder as a kid. I had shut down half of myself, or a great part of myself, completely disconnected from my emotions. Didn't know who I really am, what I really want to do, dreams, aspirations, all that I had just shut down. Emotions are not valuable. Be a man, suck it up, be tough, don't cry. So my emotions and myself and understanding of my emotions, I had none of that. It was just dark. I had just shut it down. And so what you do when you do that, you don't realize this, but you then go about saying, okay, well, all I know is I don't feel good. I don't feel good. I don't feel right. I don't feel safe. I don't feel comforted. I don't feel like my life is as it should be, or I'm as I should be. So you go about running on empty, working like a dog. You're trying to now fix the external world. You're trying to get enough money to finally have some money and be able to sit down on a Saturday and not have to work 15 jobs at a time. But you never get enough money, We'll talk about that later. Um, I'm trying to feel good and healthy and happy inside, and I never could get there. And what it was the whole time, now looking back, I was trying to control the outside world and get my life just perfect so that when I got my life externally, materially just perfect, then I could be okay in here and be a healthy, happy person. And what I didn't know at the time was the problem was in here. The problem was my emotions, my soul, my heart, my mind was all messed up. And I was trying to fix the world out there and all the circumstances and the people and the money and and you never are going to get all that under control. The world is the world. It's fallen, it's broken, it's chaotic. You can't control circumstances, situations. You can't control other people. You're never going to get the house fixed to where it never needs more maintenance. You're never going to get a car or a pickup truck that doesn't need ongoing maintenance and things aren't always breaking, even brand new ones. But see, I didn't understand all this. And that's why I'm talking about all this to you, my brothers, because if you are where I've been, you could be running on empty too, trying to get the world right and outside of you. And really, you need to start inside of you, because you can't get the world right. For one thing, you're not going to get it under control and at peace like you think you are. Number two, that ain't the problem anyway. The issue is you and me. I have to get a hold of Curtis. I have to learn to be in touch with my emotions, understand them, get a right orientation with the world around me, learn to start seeing reality as it is, because your view of reality gets warped with complex trauma and you don't even really see things rightly. Your perception is distorted, and you need to get healthy in here. The problem's in here, friend. The first problem is in here. The goal is not to get your world just perfect and everything right. The goal is to get yourself right where you can be okay in the chaos of life. You're not going to get that chaos calmed down. Life's going to keep lifing. It's going to keep being chaotic. You got to get the storm in here calmed down. But see, if you are a complex trauma survivor, or whatever they call it, you probably don't even know you have it. You just know you're running on empty, you're panicked, and you're thinking, when I get my external life right, my bank account, my truck, my house, all in order, my wife and the people in my life act right towards me and they treat me right, then I'll be okay, and I'll be complete, and I'll start feeling whole. That's wrong, brother. If you're thinking that way, you're running on empty and you're chasing the wind. It's in here, brother. You got to calm this storm in here. You got to get in touch with your emotions. You got to take the trip within, learn about your complex trauma, and begin to get tools to diagnose yourself and begin to work on that. Begin to reparent yourself, and bring the word of God, the truth, bring the truth to bear on the lies that you've been believing. You've been living by lies like you don't have any value, you're nobody. I am my performance. I only get my value from performance, when really the truth is you have value because you're made in God's image, and you don't have to perform to have value. You have value because Jesus says you have value. Okay? You don't have to earn your right to be a human being, okay? But you have to learn these things. So If you're running on empty this morning, you're running scared, running blind, and can't get your life right, it's possible you have complex trauma, friend. And I encourage you to go look up Tim Fletcher and Therapy in a Nutshell. These are on YouTube. Tim Fletcher, Therapy in a Nutshell. There's a lady called Heidi Priebe also. That's just a few. There's several on YouTube. But begin to probe and see, because we got to calm this storm within. You're never going to calm that world out there. It's always going to be storms coming. So thank you for your time. Again, this video is 20 minutes. I'm trying to keep these videos short. But when you don't, I'm just learning all this, and I don't have the vocabulary or the full understanding, so I'm sorry I'm inefficient with explaining it. But I felt it's important to open your eyes to it, because I'm having mine open to it, and I really want to help you. And I don't want to just holler at you and say, do 100 push-ups, build a big bank account, get your act together, and scream at you like a coach, and just tell you to perform and do better. There's a lot of that out there today. But if that didn't work for me, and I'm trying to help the brother who's walking in the path I've walked. So hope this helps. Thank you for your time. Trust God's been good to you, and I hope you have a great day. And like and subscribe and comment down below if this resonates with you. Do me a favor, especially if you after hearing me think maybe you have some of this, or you're complex trauma and you're doing just like me, running on empty, and you don't understand. If I'm speaking right to you, would you let me know in the comments down below? I just wonder at how many people, how many young men are running on empty from complex trauma and don't even know that that's what's going on. I'd appreciate your comments down below, and I hope you guys have a great day.